if we were all hanging out, and then Ronnie came over and was like, guys, what do y'all think I am like on a scale of like 1 to 10?
No, I can't even.
No, but you see what
Pause.
I'm saying?
Pause number one.
No, pause. No, that's definitely a pause. No, you let me finish.
Okay.
Cut this part.
This is Caesar Walker, the cool, calm, collected one.
And I'm Ronnie Gatry, the emotional one.
And we are the Tipping Point Podcast, your source for the black male's perspective.
Tipping Point Podcast.
Before we went live and stuff like that, I asked you two like how y'all felt about, the sudden death of Kevin Samuels.
Yeah.
And this is live. I want to get y'all reaction on it now. Like we didn't talk about it, prior for a reason. So like how do you feel about like his stance on some of the controversial issues that, he became popular fairly quickly on like some relationship issues and women, black men.
Yeah.
Like, how did you feel about his take? Oh, rest in peace.
Yeah, go Walker, because I feel like you should kick this off.
I should kick this off?
Yeah.
I was disappointed. I think it's always disappointing when someone dies suddenly.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So rest in peace to him. Thoughts and prayers with his family, of course. Right. And especially those. I was interested in, because I watch YouTube a lot for content creators, I was surprised at who all had relationships with him.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a guy who has a channel by the name of The Style OG. I don't know if y'all are familiar with him, but he talks about how to dress, how to carry yourself, the whole nine.
Mm-hmm.
And his listenership is mostly men because he's giving them tips on how to be men. And I didn't know those two had a relationship. They were cool. Right. And he humanized Kevin in a way that oftentimes polarizing figures don't get the benefit of being is humanized.
Right.
And I thought you began to see another layer. I think what was disappointing to me is I went through Kevin Samuels' catalog from when he first started off talking about style and fashion to where he was now, and the evolution between then to now, like 180.
Really?
So anytime you see a person evolve like that, I'm anxious to see what they would have looked like 5 years from now, what he would have been talking about 5 years from now, what will be his mindset 5 years from now. Anytime you see someone just shoot up like that, what was your trajectory really?
He found a niche though.
Yes.
Now, I didn't follow it all the way back to when he first started. I think it came onto my radar. I think maybe like a clip on Twitter or something like that, and then I think I watched the video or something like on YouTube, and it was funny. It was funny because I thought it was staged. Like
I did too.
Yeah, like some of the women calling in, I was just like, oh. And then it was just like he would be on like all the time. I was like, oh, like they're really like calling in. And he would have people be waiting to hear like his take on different things and stuff like that. And then I listened to it a couple of times and I saw how different people were responding to it as far as like women. And some people had a lot of negative things to say about it. Some of them had some positive things. I thought it was kind of funny. I thought some of it was kind of, left.
It was entertainment.
It was entertainment. That's why I said
it was entertaining.
That's why I said he found it. He definitely found a niche.
Yeah.
He definitely found a niche where it forced you to choose a side.
Yeah.
It's either you watched it because you was like, oh, like, who's he gonna come after, or you watch it for like actual advice.
Yeah.
But at the same time, even though he found a niche, I do feel like his advice and his perspective are for certain people. Because some of the stuff that he talks about as far as just like women and men and being this some type of, high value male and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I never wondered about that when I was like in the dating scene or something, like if I was a high value male or something like that, or had problems like going after women. So I was like, you have to be searching for that to like really listen, in my opinion.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Jump in here, man. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with you, Rashaad. Like initially, my initial reaction for Kev was harsh.
Yeah.
Because like, how's he doing these women like that?
Yeah, I'm like, why are y'all calling in?
Right,
Like,
right. That was another question I
get
had.
dogged out like this.
Yeah, which led me to think it was stage 2.
Yeah.
But I will say this, thanks to Walker and certain other opinions, I started to really glean a lot of value from what he was saying.
Yeah.
And he was saying a lot of stuff that I think a lot of people wanted to say, but just maybe didn't have the guts to do it.
He brought,
and of course, the way he said it was provocative.
Let's be real. He brought the barbershop to mainstream.
He did.
Yeah,
Because you've heard this before.
Yeah. One of the cornerstones of his messaging is, and we talked about this beforehand too, but women want a 6-figure earning man who treats them with respect, who will take care of them, and the list goes on. But like, very seldom did we ever question the woman and be like, well, okay, well, what are you bringing to the table?
And,
and how do you think you're going to put yourself in a space to be seen by men like this? Because Kevin Samuels, he lifted the hood on, okay, it's cool, women, that you want this, but this is what men like this are looking for. Right. Do you meet this? And now, again, the delivery, the messaging could be seen as harsh, but if you get to the cornerstone of it, there's value in it.
I feel like he championed some men who were like thinking like that, but didn't know how to express themselves.
Yeah.
So here's the biggest takeaway. I'm gonna get Black's opinion. Oh, you want to produce still? Okay, that's fine.
I mean, I can add my opinion, but I think if you listen, you know how I feel about it.
Okay, all right. We'll let you produce. So,
do you want to hear?
I don't know how you feel about it.
There you go.
Well, part of what Ronnie was saying is true about the lifting the hood up and asking women what they bring to the table. But one of his big points was that most of these women had the delusion of thinking that they were above average, and they had an issue with wanting to date average men. So that's what he was trying to get a lot of them to understand. That's why he asked them the question about your weight, your how you rate, all this stuff to get them to think that they were average.
That was the test. Oh, and there's a video right now. I had started to cut you off, but I want to add context to what he's saying. There's a video of a woman. Y'all, she looked real regular. Yeah. Okay, I just put it to you that way. She looked really regular, but he said, "Why don't you just date an average man?" Yeah. And she was like, "But that'll be settling." And if women are listening, what the biggest thing I think Kevin exposed was that for the longest of time, the disrespect of everyday brothers has been going on for so long to where it's normalized. We don't even see it anymore. Yeah. And so for a woman like that to say, I'm settling, in other words, you will be lucky to have a woman like me. That's when Kevin would say, "Oh, okay," and I heard him on another podcast, the Roommates podcast, and I loved how he put it this way. He says, "Want what you want, but be prepared to buy what you can afford." That goes for men, but that also applies to women. You can want this guy, you can want a Ferrari, and what I'm hearing women saying is, if I can't get a Ferrari, then I just won't buy a car. That's basically what I'm hearing. Well, then I just won't drive. It's Ferrari or walk, right? In other words, the translation is I can do bad all by myself. I'm not going to settle if I can't get this guy that's in the elite class of men, the top 10, 15% of men.
And I'm going to say another thing that was pretty controversial that he would talk about was this so-called high-value man or this 6-figure plus man that they would talk about like they wanted. They would want to, let's just say this average woman that you're talking about, you would want this guy and want him to only be with you. Oh. You see what I'm saying? And he would tell, and he would tell them, it's just like, okay, he would try and put it in turn for women to understand. It was like, you understand that you just rated yourself. And I just gave you like a man's rate, like how I feel, like how I would rate you. If this man is a high value man or whatever the term was, and he's bringing in all this money or whatever, even if he entertains you, if he steps out with this woman or whatever, this woman and stuff like that, like, he would try and communicate with them like, what do you have that's gonna hold him just to you? Like if you just be like, oh, I can't deal with this, I'm gonna leave you. He's gonna be like, okay, I can get something better than you. Anyway.
Because the reality, there are lots of other women out there
it's like
who are gunning for the
women.
same
And
thing.
you gotta remember that he's only talking about a certain archetype of man.
Yeah.
Right? He's not talking about all men. In other words, you're stepping into a whole different world when you get, if let's say I wasn't married and let's say I was single and I landed Rihanna, would y'all agree that by being associated with her, my life has changed?
Yes,
100%.
And I'm in a completely different world where all eyes are on me and everything I do, it's my work, my life. My life is different now.
Yeah.
What he's trying to get women to understand is you're stepping into his world.
Yeah. Like women are gunning for him every single day.
The rules have changed.
Yeah.
Like you're expecting this guy who is wanted by so many women, so many amazing looking women.
Yeah.
And you don't expect him to step out?
Yeah, step out.
And see, I don't consider myself that man. I ain't stepping out. I'm faithful to my wife.
Right.
So he ain't talking about me.
100%.
He ain't talking about me. He's talking about that man that you want.
Yeah.
So you're not just getting that man, you're getting his world.
Right.
And I don't think people understand that when you land this rare person who plays by a completely different set of rules than everyone else, you got to take what comes with that.
Yeah. But then you generalize, like, because you had a bad experience or you can't find the person that you're looking for, you generalize like all men. It's like, oh, well, ain't no good men out here. Well, it's just like, man, listen, this plumber down the street who makes very good money, works hard for his money and stuff like that, who is interested in you, who wants to treat you like a queen. Right. Like, you overlook this person because he works every day or he only brings in this amount of money.
Yeah.
And I think he exposed it, he exposed it, or he allowed them to expose themselves. And I was just like, man, it's some good people out here who may not make or pull in $1 million a year or whatever, but they do honestly and make good money and are willing to treat you like
they're responsible.
Yeah.
But what he was saying, he was always giving them statistics. So it's like that 6-figure man, that's not what the average man makes. Like, more men make about $40,000 a year.
Black men.
But being just period. That's like the average.
The average salary for, I think, white men is like almost 50.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's,
So all of y'all looking for that, 6% of men, and thinking y'all gonna get that 6%?
And in many cases, they're not even talking about low end 6 figures.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like you just peaked over 6 figures. No, they 2s, 3s. You know, so.
But then they want to they want all their time. So it's like, I want this 6-figure person, and that's like, I want all their time. And I think that he just like exposed, like, all right, listen, young lady, like you're kind of delusional. You're kind of kind of delusional. It's like, all right, let's just say if you want a 6-figure or a high value or whatever you want, and he lets them voice what they want. Okay, you want that. How do you think he got to that point? If all he does is work all day and stuff like that, and he comes home, he's tired, or he wants to do these different things, and he wants to do what he wants to do.
Right.
Like, if you come into his life and you're butting heads with him, what do you think is going to go? You or what he's been doing to get him to this point this whole time? And it was just like, that was the controversial part. Now, as far as the way he was talking to some of the women, not condoning that at all.
Right.
I definitely didn't think you should talk. But at the same time, I give the responsibility to you. Definitely didn't have to call in.
Thank you.
Like call into like a
right.
Like you wanted to be rated.
Well, I think it's disingenuous. I think it's disingenuous to frame it as though he there are women who are actually celebrating his death, or women who took pleasure.
I think that's extreme.
I got a problem with that.
Yeah, I think that's extreme.
And the justification is how he treated women. Well, here's the thing: if you're going to say anything about Kevin Samuels, you can say that he was consistent, because the men he gave smoke to, you can argue he was worse with them.
Nobody wants to talk about that.
No one wants to talk. Like, it's not like he was chummy with the dudes and letting them slide. Nah, he was giving it to them too. Raw. Like he was just giving them the business. And if you're going to, and I get it, you don't have to agree with any of his points. You don't have to agree with his approach. That's fair. Mm-hmm. That's fair. But he has a black mother. He has a black daughter. He has women who he is connected to who are in mourning. So if you're trying to do this for women, think about those women as well.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
And be respect. You know what I mean? We can respectfully disagree.
Well, I mean, I didn't follow him enough. Like when I heard about it, it was kind of like my reaction was like, dang, that's like he was still pretty young to go out like
too young.
Yeah. And go out like how he did. So it's like you don't wish that on nobody. But it's just like you know, some of the people bullying him, like you don't never want to bully somebody like after their death, especially if they're not here to like defend themselves and stuff like that.
There were a lot of people who said some stuff in the past weeks. I was like, oh my God. Like
what I've noticed is that the people who disliked him, they were only judging him based on clips. And one thing that he purposely did was he had long form. Like on one of his podcasts, it would be like 2 hours long. And he would do that on purpose. So
that was on the short end.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but he would do that on purpose so you can like he didn't want people chopping up his material to like make it seem like he's a negative person. But if you listen to it from beginning to end, maybe a 2 hour segment, you can't have that same opinion. But most people, I think, that didn't like him didn't listen to a whole.
The Average at Best video is a prime example of that. Because I went back after our podcast and listened, because that was like 20-some minutes, that whole conversation with her. You know, we only played
a few seconds.
Yeah. When you listen to that whole conversation, while it was rough, I get it.
Yeah.
I get where he was coming from. Because again, she said some stuff that was like, really?
I think I know what you're talking about, but I want to give you some pushback on that. When he does the whole average is best thing, I'm a firm believer in, it's like if you tell somebody to rate themselves 1 to 10.
And you can't use 7.
And you can't use 7.
That's his favorite part of that.
and what did he say? What did he say? Like, Kelly Rowland is a 10, Beyonce is like a 9 or something like that.
No, Rihanna's a 10.
Rihanna's a 10, yeah.
Kelly Rowland's a 9.
Kelly Rowland's a 9.
Beyonce's a 8.
Beyonce's an 8. He knows.
What is Saweetie?
Adjustable 6.
Okay.
Adjustable 6.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
because he asked him, what do they look like? Fresh, no makeup, anything like that. Like, how do you really look?
Compared to like those being 10, 9, 8, 7, and adjustable 6.
Yeah.
If you say you're a 10, I don't have any problem with you saying you're a 10. That's your perspective. But you can't be upset with if another guy across the room doesn't agree with that rating. You see what I'm saying? I don't think you should talk down on somebody who's like, oh, okay, rate yourself 1 to 10. I think I'm a 10. Okay, if you think you're a 10, I'm not going to tell you shouldn't think you're a 10. You see what I'm saying? Like, I mean,
think he was more trying to get them to realize that you may be delusional about how you see yourself out in the dating world.
Yes.
And what you should be expecting.
Right.
Based on how you think you look. And the world will tell you what you look like.
But I'm saying, what are you going by? Like, are you going by like what the world thinks of Ronnie, or like what does Ronnie think of Ronnie?
I see where you're going.
I see your point. I see your point.
Like, should I live my life off of like, all right, if I'm not Beyonce or if I'm not Kelly Rowland, like this is a standard I'm chasing. But it's like how I'm never gonna be like Kelly Rowland, or I'm never gonna be like Beyonce. So why I chase that?
That's good, and that definitely gets you a participation trophy. But the reality is, you called into the show.
Oh no, there's no excuse for that.
Okay.
And then we see you on the show, and it's just like, but it's a difference between like how you see me and how I see me.
True.
Now, if you see,
in all fairness, you got to call it the podcast if you want that.
Yeah, exactly. So, but if you call in and you say, okay, I think I'm a 10, and then Kevin Samuels said, well, I think you're a 2. Respect his. Like how he sees you, just like he should respect how you see you. You see what I'm saying? But if you're trying to date Kevin, you got to respect that he sees you as a 2.
I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
I hear you.
I see what you mean.
You know,
yeah.
And I think that's what I think a lot of women, because I talk to my sisters and stuff, and like,
how do they feel?
So,
talk to them.
Let's go.
Put them on blast.
Shout out to the sisters, because listen, my sister don't see it for Kevin either. So let's.
I'm gonna start by saying I troll them a lot. You know, so. it's like I'll start the conversation.
Loving brother.
Yeah. So I'll start the conversation, especially with my wife in the room and stuff. They're HBCU grads. They're very, they handling their business or whatever. And I'll say, Kevin Samuel said. You know what I'm saying? Now just like set them off.
I love that.
Whatever.
That's what I would do.
Why? All it takes is just like me and my dad to be in there. It was like, man, they'll start a conversation. I don't see why men can't understand like a mother doing this. It's a lot harder for a mother. And I'd be like, Kevin Samuel said, and they'll just lose it. It'd be like, so it was never been like me sitting down with them having a conversation like, oh, how do you feel about his take on something? I just knew that was a trigger for him, and I'd be like, see what Kevin Samuel said and stuff like that, and I knew they'll just be like, they'll just go out.
Do you leave as soon as you say that?
No, I hear that. I let them pretty much
use me as a
punching.
like,
you use me as a punching bag and stuff like that, and
You like, yeah.
Because my youngest sister, she's in law school, so she can argue,
Okay.
and I just like, oh, okay, this is good practice for her.
Loving brother.
Be like, you're welcome, sis.
Yeah.
It don't even matter who's wrong or who's right. You just want to get the action going.
And sometimes it's like I walk away like, let's know what Kevin Samuel said, so they just hate
Hilarious.
it. But I think that in that aspect, how he had the women call in and he would tell them to rate themselves, he didn't specify like, oh, okay, I understand how you see yourself. If you want to know how I see you, respect how I see you.
Or how that man sees you.
Yeah, or how that man sees you. And he's a man. Like, I'm getting from a male perspective. And usually they'll tear up in the comments, too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, Kevin being generous or whatever. But if a man sees you like this and you see yourself like this, you got to understand, if you're looking for a man, you might want to, consider what they may think. But at no point am I telling you, oh, okay, you shouldn't live the rest of your life thinking you're a 10. Because if you think you're a 10 and you find being by yourself, be by yourself.
Right.
But if you're looking for a man, though,
She
you
can do
kinda
bad
gotta
by herself,
consider.
man.
That's what
You
she's
gotta
been told. But does she believe that?
Let me ask a crazy question.
Okay.
Oh, we're ready for this.
You're not. I want to flip this thing on its head. If there were
Is Jackson coming back?
no.
Oh, okay.
If there were Kevana Samuel
This is hilarious.
interviewing guys,
What's her name?
Kevana Samuela.
I'm not sure I would call into that either.
Most dudes wouldn't.
Yeah. But okay. That's what I want to talk about.
I get where you're going, though.
That's what I want to talk about. Like,
That's every other show, though.
there's no. There's no space for a woman to do this to men.
That's not true.
I'm listening.
That's not true.
I'm listening.
Women to do what to men?
For women to give men the Kevin Samuels treatment. We call no woman show. We say, hey, Kevana, do you think I'm a 10?
No, dudes.
No.
See, here's the thing. Dudes. My wife and I had a conversation on the way to the beach, and I asked her, who do you think is more self-aware? Men or women, generally speaking? Not an absolute, generally speaking. She said women. I said, obviously. I was like, no, sweetheart. I think men are more self-aware.
You had this conversation going to the beach.
To the beach. Listen, one of the
Anniversary.
It was an amazing but it was an amazing trip though. But here's how I explain it to her. Most women are traditional in terms of who approaches who first. They prefer who to approach.
They want the man to approach them.
Right. So, for the most part, who's more susceptible to rejection, men or women?
Men.
So, who's more likely to be more aware of where they rank with women and stand with
Very
women?
true.
We don't need a show to tell you where we stand. We get that.
Oh, women
reminder
tell you that every day if you try to holler at them.
Yeah.
every day. So we don't need a show to tell you. We get reminded all the time. The grocery store,
Oh yeah, we've been rejected a whole.
the red light, the traffic light.
You learn to not be rejected.
But it proves my point. There's not a space for a show like this for women.
It's
to do the
not
opposite.
needed.
It's not needed, and it wouldn't work.
That's
I don't think it would work either.
But if it did, here's why I'm getting weird with the question. If it did work,
Oh, now you're getting weird. I'm sorry. Continue.
if it did work, what would y'all think of that guy?
That called in.
I ain't gonna lie. I would feel some type of way about that guy because, like I said earlier,
I feel like he needs some men around him.
yeah, I would think so too. Because it was just like if we were all hanging out, and then Ronnie came up and was like, Guys, what do y'all think I am like on a scale of like 1 to 10?
No, I can't even.
No, but you see what
Pause.
I'm saying?
Pause number one.
No, pause. No, that's definitely a pause. No, you let me finish. You let me finish.
Okay.
Cut this part.
It was right there. It was right there, Rashaad.
I'm talking about on a scale of like 1 to 10 as far as being like a high value man or so. Or do you think I'm a high value? That's just not a conversation that we have. It's just like, oh, okay, like, oh, don't go over there and talk to her because you're not a high value man. I don't have that conversation. You see what I'm saying? So like I said earlier in the podcast, it was just like, I feel like that's for a certain audience it's for looking for that. Because it's like, I don't wake up and it's like, oh, I got to be a high value man today. I already think like if I'm handling my business, I'm taking care of my family, like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I don't need my wife to pat me on the back at the end of the day, like, that was some high value man type stuff. You know what I'm saying? I'm not looking for that at all. It doesn't cross my mind at all. So for a guy to like call into a show,
You was low value yesterday, but Wednesday,
exactly.
you're high.
Exactly.
You're trending.
So for a guy to call in and be like, yeah, I'm 6'2", I work for Microsoft, it's like, on a scale of like 1 to 10, and they give us a range. Who would tune in to like see that? Like, I really don't care, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I really don't care. It doesn't cross my mind. But women, like you said, women really want to know that because they haven't gone through like
They really don't know.
You don't even ask women their age. You can't even ask them their age. So it's kind of like,
you're not supposed to.
You're not supposed to. Right?
So they don't really. So you can go.
Women to start off be like, how much you make? Before you even start talking to them, I'm like, God dang, I just
I told you.
buy you some coffee.
But do you see what I'm saying? Like, they can say whatever.
Right.
And so we got to tiptoe around these topics. And so a woman can go for a while in life, not really knowing where she stands.
Just delusional.
You know what I mean? Not knowing where she stands. Yeah, again.
And then wonder, why am I single?
So and again, getting back to the initial question, I appreciate that I think he's kind of energized the conversation because a lot of people are starting to talk about relationships, even if it's in light of things he said or topics that he's introduced. The whole conversation of what do you bring to the table as a woman? That's become a big buzz, thing that men and women get together and discuss. So I like that I like that women are starting to, even if they don't like it, they're starting to hear how men think and feel, because there hasn't been a lot of spaces pre-Kevin that those thoughts existed outside of going to somewhere to get your hair cut, or going to the bar with your boys, or y'all in the locker room, y'all getting ready to suit up and shoot some hoop or whatever. You know what I mean? Like those are where these conversations existed.
I like how he asked them like, "Do you want to be married?" And they'd be like, "Yeah, like I want to be married." And I'd be like, do you really want to be married?
Yeah.
Like, do you really want to be married?
Well, he says it. I love how he says it. You want the man is a utility. You want the lifestyle. You know what I mean? The man is just the means to
work.
the end.
Yeah, it's work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like he said that modern women want traditional men, but they aren't traditional women.
And
see, now he's getting controversial with the whole traditional.
Well, I don't think he's wrong, because you got to think the equality of it. You got to think about the opportunities women had that grandmama didn't have.
True.
So now you can go out here and get the bag just like I can. Now,
so why do you need me?
You're not grandmom.
Yeah. But at the same time, with my relationship, and I hope I don't.
Oh, you've already stepped in now. Just keep going.
Yeah, you're in trouble.
But with my relationship, me and my wife, she can hold the household down better than like she can be traditional woman or whatever. But at the same time, she's an educated woman and she can go out there and get the bag.
Yeah.
At the same time, I can do the same thing. So it's like I can hold down the house. Of course, I'm a teacher. I can watch my kids.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, and do that. I can cook. I can do different things like that, and I can go out there and work and stuff like that. But I saw my dad doing that. Like my dad was just like, okay, I'll go out here and work. And also, I like spending time with my kids, and I can hold down the household. So I feel like when it comes down to like a woman has to be a traditional woman, I feel like that's only a problem if the man is only being like that traditional man, kind of like going back to fences. If I feel like my only responsibility is to go out here, make the money, come back, and I can do whatever I want, and you must be this traditional woman, I feel like that's problems.
I think it's more so,
but if it's like the
traditional
Huxtables,
values, not being a traditional woman.
Yes, I could agree with that.
Yeah,
I could agree with
for
that.
sure.
Because I can't take away that you went to school, like you have skills and you have a profession too. I can't be like, okay, because you're married to me,
I need you to stay at home.
I can make enough money
Most dudes
to take care of everything.
And, again, most dudes, they want you to go work.
Yeah.
They ain't
Time away is
They're not
good.
tripping.
Yeah, they ain't tripping. They not tripping. Now, again, with kids coming to play, that could change.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about two people coming together. They like, hey, go work.
I want you to do what makes you happy. Because if
There you
you do
go.
what makes you happy, then that's going to make us happy. Now, if you're at a job and that job is stressing you out, I don't want you thinking like, if I can take care of
Right.
everything, I don't want you to be at that job and you want to be at home with the kids.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, bro, come home. You know what I'm saying? I can take care of this.
Yeah.
But if it's just like, oh, okay, I went to school for X amount of years to do this profession and I can be out there doing that, I'm like, go do that. Because that's what's going to make you happy. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, that's just going to make our household. We'll figure it out with the kids and stuff like that. Even if I got to stay home. If you bring home the bag and I stay at home, shoot, I'll be in there, I had dinner ready and stuff like that. I ain't got no problem with that.
And then
I ain't got no problem with
And
that.
I guess I was going to ask, like, we talk about women not being traditional. Are we really as traditional as men were?
No.
Nope.
No.
I think we've, especially, did you go to college? You went to college?
I did.
Yeah, so we all attended some college in here. So
that's
like,
breaking the tradition.
we're a little different. You know what I mean? And I think
I've never stepped foot in a steel plant. Nothing against the traditional man that has, but you know what I mean? Yeah.
you step foot in a plant. We went in a steel plant, but I get your point.
Been in a print shop before.
Does that count? Somewhat.
But yeah, I would agree. We're not like, the traditional man. But I do think we bring some things to the table, like your initial question about the way he went about things in fences as far as just like working, coming home, and just like, all right, woman's supposed to take care of everything else. Would that work today? I feel like it wouldn't work today anyway.
No, it wouldn't.
You see what I'm
Well,
saying?
at least not in my marriage.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, it wouldn't either. It wouldn't.
Yeah.
Shoot, if you come in from work and you see me in here struggling with bass, like come help me with bass.
Right.
It's not like, oh, okay, I've been working all day. I'm finna go sit in this chair, kick my feet up, and just because it's in the household, I'm supposed to take care of everything in the household.
I figured out a long time ago. I was like, okay, I want to have sex tonight. Why don't I help her, and she won't be so worn out by the time it gets.
I feel like there's nothing wrong with it.
Traditional man didn't have to worry about that.
He expected you to like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what you're
Traditional
supposed to
man's getting it whenever he wants.
do. Yeah.
Ah, the good
Right.
days.
And if you're and if he's not in his marriage,
You ready to make
then,
America great again?
you know what I'm saying?
Wow.
I am the least racist person in this room.
That was a joke. Okay, continue. My bad.
No, but like I said, I was just like, if he's not getting it from like at home, then that's when a traditional man, he would like step out and he had kids down the street, downhill, down there.
I see what you mean
and
there.
I feel no type of way about it.
Because he's going to work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, we're kind of deep in this subject with Kev. This is where me and him parted ways. And I think it's okay to say like, just because you don't hate the man don't mean you co-sign everything he said. Because there are some things he said I was like, whoa.
Oh
Yeah,
no,
you can
most
agree with 99% of what he said.
that much, that little. But I felt like, again, I know he's talking about a certain type of man.
Yeah.
Being able to exercise his options and cheat and do that whole nine. But I feel that, he talked about marriage being about duty. And I agree. Mm-hmm. I agree. Duty is a component of it, but you can, I live in nuance. You can have romance. It may not be what defines your marriage, right? But it's not enough just to have families. You want healthy families.
Right.
And you don't want your two daughters in therapy 20, 30 years from now because of things they observed you do.
100%.
And so we part ways on the whole cheating aspect of it, because if you're a man thinking about legacy, what kind of legacy you want to leave with your children?
Right.
And I think it's important to lay the groundwork in. And you said it like it starts with how they go out and interact with the world depends heavily on how they see you interact with your wife and how you interact with the world, how you take on challenges. And so if they have that model, that example, then they're in an advantage when they become adults in life because they've seen the blueprint. And so, you know, some of the things that gets excused with a man of that type of caliber or men who cheated back in the day, you got to think about how many people are goofed up behind that. How many people are screwed up. There are women who don't want no parts of a man because of what they observed Big Daddy do back in the day.
100%.
So we got to fix that. We can't make excuses for that. So I you know, again, we about making men better. We understand the impact of us growing and becoming better men. We're going to grow and make better people as a result of it. So there were, you know, again, he's not, you know, he's somewhere in the middle. He's somewhere in the middle. He hit on a lot of good points, but there were some things we parted ways on for sure, just because of my value system, you know, my faith and the whole nine. I was like, I'm gonna let you have that one. I'm not with you on that one. But I think I appreciate him speaking to something that was necessary and a conversation that needed to have, because I think for the longest of time, whether you appreciate it or not, black women really didn't know how black men felt because there wasn't a space for black men to freely speak their minds on what was happening in the dating market. So I appreciate him for that.
Yeah. I mean, it was a lot of stuff that I disagreed with him on, but I understood where he was coming from, because it's like I'm listening or I'm looking at it from the lens of like I'm married. Yeah. So it's just like a lot of the stuff you're talking about is just like, I didn't go looking for this type of information when I was dating. You see what I'm saying? So it was like when I was dating, it was kind of like, oh, I dated a completely different way. I didn't tune in to Kevin Samuels to see how women were, you know, thinking and stuff like that. So it was kind of like, it was entertainment listening to some of the stuff. It's like, oh, okay. Like, you know, I'm married. I'm happily married now. You know, I have 2 daughters or whatever. So it's just like listening to like where the state of dating is now, and like, oh man, like people are really like tuning into this to see like, okay, what do women want? Like, how do I have to tailor myself to be this person to get this type of person? I was like, man, that's crazy, because I definitely didn't, when I was there, I didn't
either
seek that type of information.
I didn't either.
You know, especially from like, there was no Kevin Samuels. Well, I mean, he wasn't popping like he was when I was dating.
Yeah.
Keep Your Point Podcast.